Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. I'm Chris.
Hi, I'm Steve.
We are from EatWalkLearn. Every Monday, we drop a video telling you about our vegan, full-time, walking, traveling life as nomads and sometimes meat eaters. Meat eater.
Sometimes.
Anyway, we are in Mexico City this week still. We were here for the whole week. And my, oh my, if Eat, Walk, Learn is not a good title for us today, boy, did we learn a lot this past week. So we're going to share a lot of really cool things with you. So, first up, Steve, thank you to our wonderful kids for a beautiful gift that we got from them. It was a coupon or something for, I don't know what it was called, but tickets to cash in for a tour here in Mexico City. And we took that and we went to the Shrine of Guadalupe and then out to the pyramids to learn a whole lot of stuff this week.
Yes, we have. So it was really fantastic to learn about the pre-Columbian era here and the pyramids that dated back to, I think, about 1,300 years ago.
No, 200 BC was the pyramids, and then the downtown is like 1,300, 1,400.
Okay.
Long timeline. Long Aztec timeline.
Long time. And, just the amazing pyramids. Well, should we talk about the Shrine of Guadalupe first?
Yeah, so we went to the Shrine of Guadalupe, and the reason why the shrine exists is it's the second most visited place for an image of Guadalupe. And what we found very fascinating, I'm going to roll some video here of how you walk into the shrine, you walk into one of the churches where there is a cloth with the vision of Guadalupe on it, and you go on a walking or a rolling walkway and you see it. But what we found really interesting is I'm also going to show you a picture of the Virgin Mary. And throughout, the whole week, every tour we went on and every place that we went to that we learned something, the tour guide made the distinction of how the original Virgin Mary looked and how the Guadalupe looked. And the changes that were made to the image, or the changes that happened to the image, depends on your perspective and point of view of how the image came about. But on the Virgin Mary, you have, her dress, her robe, and her belt around her waist, and an arc of stars. But when you get to the Guadalupe, they made a black belt around her to make her look like she was pregnant. They made a veil that had stars on it to represent the celestial bodies that were really relevant to the Aztecans. And then they changed her skin color as well. So then on the Virgin Mary, she's on a bed of clouds. On the Guadalupe, she's being held up by symbolism or images that were really sacred to the Aztec and indigenous population. So it was a real aggressive move, you might interpret as, that the conquistadors did to some symbolic images to really convince the indigenous populations to accept Catholicism. So we saw that in lots of places as we traveled throughout Mexico City, and it represented, and everywhere we go, we see the image of Guadalupe on walls and tiles, and it's pervasive.
You see the image everywhere, and in December is the big celebrations for Guadalupe.
There's 6 or 7 different parties.
To realize that something like 80% of the people here in Mexico are Catholic, and this is the image that they pray to. This is their image, probably the most popular religious, certainly the most popular religious image in the country. And to be able to see the origin, so where did it actually come from? What was the original one, and how pervasive it is, and now it's just everywhere you go throughout the country.
So we got that at the Shrine of Guadalupe, and then off we went to go see the pyramids, where it was just interesting to go from the Catholic story back in time to the Aztec story and how they represented their gods and their idols and so on. So we went to the pyramids of the sun and the moon.
The pyramids are huge. It's just incredible to see the the immense size and just the dimensions of them. We've been to what are some of the other places that we've been to?
Then we went to the church where one of the original another Aztec pyramid was. It was a double pyramid. It was then destroyed, and a church was built on top of it with the same stones. That happened several places in Mexico City.
Right.
So just, I don't know, a real a real telling of the impact of cultures, one culture on another. How's that?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, taking these learning moments through us throughout the week, we are staying in the town of Kinokon, which is where actually Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera lived, and also Leon Trotsky. And a lot of people, so back in 2019, I lived in Mexico City for about 5 weeks, and I lived in a town called Roma Norte, also called Hippodroma or Condesa. They're all kind of mixed together. And a lot of people who come to Mexico City, a lot of our friends say, "Oh, we're going to stay in Roma Norte or Condesa. We hear about Kinokon, but we don't know if we should stay there or not." So, what's the difference between Kinokon and Roma Norte, Condesa, Hippodroma, Polanco? Sometimes people throw Polanco in there. What's the difference between them? Well, or among them, so both are very bougie, both are very trendy. But I would say Roma Norte and Hippodroma are very much where the digital nomads land. Lots of expats and gringos there, lots of English being spoken, whereas Kinokon is definitely the Mexican version of that. So there's definitely tourism here, but it's Mexican tourists. Every once in a while you see an English speaker come by, but hardly any English is spoken in this area. There's very trendy restaurants and things, but it's definitely one's very Mexican and one's very gringo, I would say.
I actually see it a little bit differently as well, because this is the neighborhood where Frida and Diego lived. I see this as a very artsy community, and a lot of people that are, maybe more liberal, free thinkers, maybe will be attracted to this area. But I love it. I love this area of Kinokon that we're staying in. It's really, really popular. Just something happening all the time. The square is just a lot of fun.
We've had a lot of date nights out in the square, just going to go people watch and sketch and just enjoy the culture of hanging out in the park in the Centro in the evening.
But where we're staying is just a couple blocks off of the central square, so it's very quiet, and we're in a great Airbnb, very centrally located though.
And we also learned on our walking tour of Kinokon what Kinokon means. And Steve definitely had a big learning aha moment about Kinokon.
There's a beautiful fountain here that has two coyotes with water raining down on them. And so the word Kinokon is from the word coyote, which is an Aztec word. And so I was really fascinated with that the coyote is an Aztec word. And I did a little bit more learning on that and learned that there are a lot of other really common words that we use that are the same origin. So words like chocolate, chocolate, is an Aztec word. This is where chocolate comes from. But also words like avocado and tomato.
And
woman are words that came from Mexican, from the Aztecs, from the what was the language? Natal language. Really fascinating like that. So there's literally hundreds of English words that have an origin right here in Mexico.
Right here in our neighborhood.
In our neighborhood. So we're in the land of coyotes is where we're staying, Kinokon.
So then we, continuing kind of on the pre-Columbian point of view, we went to the Anthropology Museum, which is always highly recommended. And it's the whole story of all the indigenous people. I don't know if tribe is the right word, but all the indigenous groups that make up the story of Mexico, and very different. And it's all done by regions, of course. And so you got the Oaxacan region and the Norte region and so on, and the Mexico region, Mexico state. And it's just fascinating to see just how the different cultures are represented in the museum. And boy, if you like clay works, that's the place to go.
Love the Anthropology Museum. It's really a must-see when you come here to Mexico City. And really, again, along that theme of learning about the different communities and the different peoples that lived in Mexico and the different regions, it's really just fascinating.
So continuing on the learning phase, so when we leave Mexico in a couple of weeks, we're taking a cruise over to Europe for the spring, summer, and fall. And we discovered on our last cruise that we didn't quite have the right wear for dinner. Shorts and t-shirts just didn't quite cut it. So Steve was feeling like he needed to get a sports coat. Not spend a lot of money on it, but just have one, in his back pocket in case.
You go on these cruises, and there are a few nights that are formal nights, and Chris and I, this is our typical, with t-shirts and shorts. It's and sandals. It's we don't have formal.
And formal's
wear.
not really formal, but it's more than a t-shirt and shorts. So
yeah.
So anyway, so he says, let's go find some secondhand stores. Well, secondhand stores aren't really a thing in Mexico. If you find a secondhand store, it's probably more like a vintage store, and it's geared towards the gringos and things looking for a hip,
Yeah.
or the trendy teenagers that are looking for a hip 1980s clothing. But what they do have is a thing called Tianguis. So a Tianguis is a Tianguis. It's a Spanish word or Mexican word that is used to describe kind of an outdoor flea market. We would call it a flea market or a flea market, a thrift.
Yeah, pop-up market.
Yeah, and which is different than a mercado. So a mercado is it might be freestanding, but it's a permanent, usually a permanent exhibit that has your Mexican folk art and fruits and vegetables, and it's the market that people go shopping in. Versus the Tianguis, it's got everything. It's got, and most of it's, well, I'd say it's half and half used and new, but used clothing, new clothing, socks, cell phone stuff. I mean, it's
Food,
unbelievable
fruits,
what you can find there.
and everything. But it's just they put it all up on Saturday and then take it down on Saturday night, and it was huge. I mean, we probably walked from one end to the other was at least a mile.
Yeah, easily. And then they had just piles of clothing. I mean, they have these coffee tables or whatever with piles of clothing, and so.
Coffee tables.
Yeah, card tables. So we dug through a card table of clothing, and Steve found the best deal he's probably ever found in his lifetime.
A nice navy blue jacket, lightweight. It's going to travel well. Looks sharp. We came up with all these stories about where did this jacket come from, because it was made in Connecticut. But nice jacket for $1. So excited that I found this great dinner jacket, suit jacket.
And then we immediately took it over to the dry cleaner to pay $2 to get it cleaned and pressed.
Yes, you're going to dry clean it and make sure that it's nice and fresh and clean.
So, and then let's see, what else do we want to talk about today?
We went to the Freedom Museum.
Oh, that's right.
Today.
Gosh, we went to the Freedom Museum today and kind of pulled all this stuff together. Kind of, because she was such a heroine for the Mexican story and Mexican folklore. You can see that represented in her clothing. But it was my second time I had been there, but it was Steve's first time, and he really enjoyed the difference between Frida and Diego.
I really like Impressionist work, and so to see Frida's work in her home, it was her home that from a childhood that she lived in her parents' home is where the museum is. But to see some of her works, and particularly some of her Impressionist works, and then also to compare that to Diego Rivera, who is most known for his murals, but he's got more of a Cubist style. And again, when you think about, this, when they were, painting and their artwork was in the 20s and 30s and 40s, the influence of Cubists and Impressionists.
And communism.
And communism and socialism and all the political movements that were happening at the time. Again, to learn and see where that originated and see where that was from, and really to understand more about Frida and how she was such a strong woman that had to overcome so much adversity in her life is really celebrated. And it's one of those things, again, in this country, they really celebrate their artists, and they love their artists, and Frida and Diego are on the 500 peso bill. So to have, their images on their currency, just as an indication of how much they're loved in this community.
And and Steve doesn't quite agree with me on this, but I personally like the imagery of Guadalupe and the imagery of Frida. They might be kind of similar.
I think you're going a little bit too far with that
know.
one.
We need to.
Frida would say.
I don't know.
That she had that, but she definitely had her style.
And she was definitely iconic, for sure.
Iconic.
They're both iconic.
Yes.
We'll definitely go with they both are iconic.
Yeah, that's Frida. The image of Frida is probably the second most
iconic image of
Mexico.
All right, so last thing we want to say is a lot of you who follow us on Facebook have voted on the cover for our book that's coming out. I'm going to show you the winning cover. I think I might change it still, but I think this is going to be the winning cover, so thank you all for that. The book should come out probably around the 1st of April. Cross your fingers, it'll be an ebook on Kindle. You guys it has a workbook and all kinds of things. So we'll talk much more about that later. In the meantime, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, maybe we can get to 200 subscribers this week. Ooh. Help us get there, would you?
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next week. Oh, you're not going to want to miss next week, because this week we are going up to see the monarch butterfly migration. And the whole video, I think, is going to be butterflies next week.
Just butterflies.
Just butterflies. All right. Talk to you guys later.